live on CS4.
Okay.
Take it over from. I'll be there in a minute.
Yep. All right. Yep. Are we live right now?
Yes.
All right, everybody. We are experiencing some technical difficulties right now. We have Rob Kientz, who's going to be co-hosting today's live stream. We have a great guest. We have Kurt from Coin Geek. He is going to be on live here at PorcFest 2024 at the Citizens Sound Money live broadcast booth. Some of the technical difficulties is we're trying to launch on multiple channels at the same time, so don't you fret none. We're in the process of getting that worked out. Kurt, how are you doing today this morning? Doing fantastic, my friend. Doing fantastic. Great to hear from you again. I know that we tried to get you on one of our Sound Money Mondays, but I'm glad that we were able to get you here on PorcFest. I know that you had a accident and you broke your leg or something back in November. What happened? Well, I know that we were. Oh, that's right. Yeah, gotcha. Got you. Well, I had an umbilical hernia too. It was actually, what was I doing? I don't know what I did. Oh, you know what it was? It was jujitsu. I was doing jujitsu and I got an umbilical hernia and I also had to get that surgery. It's actually, you know what? It was a lot more painful. I didn't realize that we use our abdomen for literally everything, absolutely everything. Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty rough. I'm a jujitsu black belt myself, and
Oh,
so
man.
getting back to the gym was something. It took me probably 3 months till I was able to like properly hip escape and that kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
basically teaching yourself again how to engage your core was terrifying, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you know what? It's same thing. Well, it was more than 3 days. I couldn't walk for a while. I had to use a walker and everything. But
Yeah.
you're a black belt. You would actually whoop my butt in some jujitsu because I'm only like a what is it, a three stripe white belt.
Sure.
Haven't even moved up yet. But you know what
Yeah,
it was?
I've been training. I've been training for about 14 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I trained for about 6 months or 5 months. Then a hurricane hit,
Sure.
flooded our school, and then
Yeah.
I blew my knees out, blew my back out. You know how they say if
Yeah.
you're not in pain, you're not doing jujitsu right.
True, very true. Yeah.
So, who was your professor? Where did you train?
So I train now in South Florida. I'm under Professor Rodrigo Mendez, but I
Okay.
spent most of my time. I got all my belts up until purple belt from Alliance Jiu Jitsu in Chicago under Isaac Riggs and Jason Sullins. So
Got you.
it's been a journey.
I trained in Gracie Baja under Ricardo Pires in Fort
Okay.
Lauderdale, and then he opened up a different branch in Pompano. But yeah, I was in South Florida
Gotcha.
training as well.
Okay. Do you still live in South Florida?
No, I moved to Sebastian, Florida, about 2 hours north, 1 hour and 45
Gotcha.
minutes. But I head down south often. Maybe we should grab lunch or coffee
Yeah,
next time.
for sure. I'm in Palm Beach County, so I mean anywhere
dude.
between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm, I'm a 10-minute drive basically.
Yeah, you're like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes away from me. That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
So, what do you, Rob? Do you know what topic you wanted to discuss with Kurt?
Yeah, just let him talk about the history of sound money.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, one of my favorite topics. Let's talk about the history of sound money.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah. So, go ahead. Let us know. Where do you want to start? Like, we can start at sound money. In the 1500s. We can start in America, the Revolution. Where do you want to start with the history of money?
You tell me, guys. So I actually just gave a presentation at Weber State University yesterday via Zoom. So I didn't fly for it, but talked about how sound money may have never actually existed in reality, but has always existed in practice.
Oh.
In fact, there's ancient Sumerian tablets discussing complex financial instruments like derivatives and that kind of thing, like debt as money, and also criticisms on Sumerian tablets of fake money. So
that is awesome. I didn't even realize it went that far back.
Guys like us have existed for 6,000 or 7,000 years, saying like, "Hey guys, you realize this is going to fall apart, right?"
That is amazing. I had no idea. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's start there. I think the history of money, because prior to the Lydian Empire, gold and silver wasn't money. It was just a medium of exchange and a store of value, not even a unit of account. Let's start from when it was just a bartering tool, a store of value, and a medium of exchange, and then we can go to the Lydian Empire and just kind of explain the history so people understand, our audience understands, why are we such sound money advocates, and why do we keep going back to gold and silver?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the interesting thing. I mean, if you look at like ancient Sumeria, so this is what's currently like Iraq and Syria, the Fertile Crescent is often, as it's often called. They had complex debt systems. They had, hey man, I need to collateralize my cattle in order to get other, a more liquid currency to do other things, they had complex investment tools, and it really is bizarre that, a lot of people talk about history as like, oh yeah, money probably started with clamshells and beads and feathers and, that kind of thing. And we actually don't have a lot of evidence of that. I mean, we see that in other cultures much later, but the earliest evidence of any money at all comes from Sumerian tablets written in cuneiform, which is, something like 5,000 or 6,000 years old at this point. And they were doing, the same kind of nonsense games that we see being done by, the Federal Reserve right now.
Yeah.
And then we see those criticisms. And so I think there's always been a sort of mainstream economy, and then there has been a parallel, a parallel. I don't want to say gray market, because it's not like people that trade in gold and silver, I don't think are necessarily gray market, but there's been a resistance to that and saying, hey, I want to store my value in these other assets, and I want to do sound business with sound money. So I think a lot of it is very much time and place, and these things are sort of action reaction. It's just like we saw in Vienna, Austria, with the establishment of the first sort of central banking cartel types.
Yeah.
And then, the backlash to that was the beginning of the Austrian economic movement. You get Ludwig von Mises, a generation later, saying, hey, guys, what about gold? What about, sound commerce?
Yeah.
And so there are these microcosms with a lot of antagonism. And so I don't think anywhere there's a straight line of here's where money was bad and here's where money was good, and we're trending in one direction. I think it's very cyclical, and it's going to be a lot of action reaction amongst people that like to have conversations about macroeconomics and monetary theory.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I thought the whole fiat currency, right? Well, that's what we're talking about. Fiat currency started with the Chinese. I'm now modifying my history. It's the Chinese that started paper money, not fiat money. So it's interesting that you brought that up. I had no idea that they were using tablets, which makes sense, right? And anybody could make a tablet as a medium of exchange and unit account by decree. So it's interesting to see the Sumerians were actually creating fiat currency with stone tablets. And
absolutely.
And then how many? I don't know the exact time frame between the Sumerian Empire and the Lydian Empire. Do you know that time frame and how much time?
I'm not exactly sure. No, once we get so far back, to me, it's the difference in hundreds of years becomes a little less relevant to me. I'm not a classically trained historian on that, so I'm not the expert any more than I am at just talking.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I think we got into the age of commodity money somewhere around the time of the Lydians. I know Egyptians, Lydians, everybody was sort of using gold or silver depending on what they were able to mine very easily, what was at the surface. And then eventually with trade routes and things like that, commodity money, came into the forefront, really became very popular. It powered a lot of those classical Western European-based nation states, Spain, the UK and the rise of all of those. And that's been, commodity money had its era. It really was popular in the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, before we had the Federal Reserve. Of course, we know in the 1800s, a lot of the European nations were doing central banks. The U.S. finally acquiesced to that. A lot of us think kind of behind the scenes, not necessarily the will of the people in 1913 with the creation of the Fed and the IRS and all those types of things. And then kind of fast forwarding to where we are now, we had commodity-backed money, the gold-backed dollar. Now we have pure fiat. Bringing us now into the current time frame, Kurt, what is your view on the fiat era since 1971, the dollar being the dominant currency and being what everybody's using? Are we still in that stage, do you think? Or are we transitioning to something different now? Because it seems like we have a lot of de-dollarization. And what's really going on with currencies and money nowadays?
So we do have some de-dollarization, but a lot of people say, fiat currency, no fiat currency has ever lasted more than, whatever the number is, 80 years or something like that. And the US is setting new records for the length of time on how long a fiat currency can exist. The thing that we've not ever seen before is a fiat currency with such a global presence in a global economy. And so that's sort of the uncharted water that we're in that it kind of doesn't matter where you are in the world. A U.S. dollar is good currency for establishing trade. It doesn't matter if you're in rural Panama or even in places where the dollar is considered illegal. Like if you're in North Korea and you've got dollars, that might be the one place where people are a little bit like, oh, I probably shouldn't accept this. But if it's the right opportunity, they understand that it's liquid, it's exchangeable, and all these other things. If they have a route out of that country, even, you'd probably rather have U.S. dollars than almost any other currency. And so it's a very weird position. But we're seeing a lot of major threats against the dollar. We've seen, this BRICS conversation has been happening for the last, 24 months or so, sort of adjacent to this Russian-Ukraine war situation. And then you have the Chinese and the Saudis and, all these other people that really want to see the dollar go away. And so they're speaking a little bit to this notion of commodity money, gold-backed BRICS dollar, that kind of thing. But it's funny because even then, what people don't know unless they're in the gold market is Chinese gold is worth like 20 or 30% less than gold in the Western Hemisphere, just because. And it's a trust of Chinese numismatics problem in that you have to assume that if you're receiving Chinese gold, that it's been diluted in some way. And so the interesting thing is that the U.S., for all of its problems, and it has an incredible amount of problems, and so does the dollar, it's still a lot more trustworthy than trying to trust the Russians or the Chinese to issue a better currency. And so it's weird because for 20 years now, I've been sort of an anti-dollar activist, like basically saying, hey, we need to clean up our act or we're going to get wiped off the face of the earth here just by, the same way the Romans did, just pure, hedonism and greed, and then we'll inflate and then deflate, and then we're done as an empire. And so, but betting against the dollar has been the worst idea. Now, while dollar purchasing power has gone down against commodities for 20 or 25 years, it has gone up against almost every other currency for the last same amount of time. And so the dollar being so liquid, so trusted, that it's really unprecedented because it truly is a bad currency. It's a bad money, but given how desirable it is as a means of exchange, it kind of keeps its properties as a basic store of value, and some of these other things are better than we've seen in other quote unquote bad currencies. So I don't know how this unwinds. I don't know when Japan and China and some of these other places start calling in their notes and selling their bonds and that kind of thing, but dollar, I don't know. Dollar supremacy is a very, very weird one, and frankly, all we have is theories on how this either does a big pivot or changes. Bitcoin has been a big variable for the last 15 years or so, but Bitcoin has failed to replace the dollar as a means of exchange. It's been a much better store of value, obviously, but it's still pretty niche. There's just not that many people that have benefited hugely from Bitcoin as a store of value. And now that technology is being pivoted into, hey, let's just do CBDCs, and that might be the next pivot for the US dollar if things start to really, cascade into some kind of collapse. Is just say, okay, we're going to revalue everything, and everybody gets a CBDC wallet, and everything's fine. USA A-OK, and if you disagree, we'll send in the Marines. So, all that to say, we're in a lot of uncharted water here with the dollar and the Fed and all the rest of it. And it's pretty hard to bet against the U.S. economy, which is ultimately the real driver between the supremacy of the U.S. dollar.
And what is your view on what sound money means today? What is sound money today to you? How do you view that?
Sound money is something that is unchangeable. So this is kind of why I don't call Bitcoin sound money. It is changed. It has been changed. Like the core devs make changes all the time. Like Taproot and stuff was not something that was in Bitcoin 4 years ago. And so Bitcoin is a changeable money. It's not a great sound money. I think truly it has to come back principally to your precious metals. They're really the only things that are truly sound money. And it's your gold, your silver, primarily, and then obviously your other stuff. But even when you get outside of gold and silver, it really stops being thought of as a means of exchange, even conceivably a means of exchange at all, because you just start getting in the weeds with more weird guys. The gold and silver guys, and myself included, are already pretty niche at this point. But
yeah,
I think anything past that becomes a little bit untenable. However, I think there is an opportunity using blockchain technology to create real-world asset tokens. So let's say you take, the best gold custodians in the world. This would be, Brinks or Lloyd's, some of these people, and start saying, okay, this is exactly how much gold we have in the vault. We can issue exactly this many tokens, and so that token can itself potentially be a sound money that's used for means of exchange, but that still has a trust problem. And, then that makes it hard to call it a sound money, because if it's not immediately recognizable as, oh, I have gold here, even if it's in my digital wallet, then you can make the argument that it's not sound money. But you got your basic 5 principles of what a sound money is, right? So it's fungible, it's easily divisible, unchangeable, and I'm going to forget the other 2 because I'm under pressure at the moment.
No, it's okay. Putting you on the spot. So Kurt, what do you believe is the future of money? And then after I ask you this question, I want to get into some of the consequences of like current policy and things like that. But where do you think the next step goes for money? Do you think that people are going to gravitate back towards commodity money? Do you think they're going to do the crypto, that type of thing? Do you think it's going to be where we have independent regional currencies? What's your viewpoint on that?
What I would like to see, I actually would like to see a kind of balkanization of most nations. Mm-hmm. So the exact opposite of the EU experiment where everybody's using the euro. I think it'd be very cool for the state of Florida to issue Florida dollars. And that's the kind of thing that works, because with technology, you can know the spot price of every asset instantly. Like we have that ability today. That was a huge problem 150 years ago, back when, state of Massachusetts or Bank of Boston or whatever was, issuing their own dollars, because, well, what is the spot price of this asset? If I want to go to Connecticut, it becomes a real problem. But we don't have that problem today. We don't have a data integrity problem like that. We can get an instant spot price for every asset versus every other asset with a simple app. And so I think a balkanization of money would be a good thing, for the same reason that, I love for the state of New York to be competing with the state of Florida for, hey, where do you want to invest your money? Where do you want to build your home? And people have this ability to flee the places where they are to get to use the competitive policies of the place they want to live. So why not also have the same thing with your money, your currency? And so I think that's a possibility, but I think it's unlikely. And the reason for that is that there's so much power in the issuance of money, and it probably would take some kind of a bloody revolution in order to really change what that hierarchy looks like today. And so what we'll probably be end up doing is, I think we're looking very clearly at all the powers that be want there to be a CBDC program, a central bank digital currency that is issued on some kind of a scalable blockchain. It'll have currency controls, it'll have confiscation ability, and all the same kind of things. So it's imagine if everything you hated about banking was inserted onto all the things that you used to like about cash. So it becomes digital cash in your pocket, but it's confiscatable. And so A, that really sucks. And B, I kind of think that's the direction we're going, because as much as like to think that lots of people are revolutionary and will resist such a thing, it's not enough of us in order to clearly take a stand against it. Now, the only candidate talking about it at the federal level right now is Donald Trump, who is a very mixed bag when it comes to policy on things. But he's made a pledge to stand firmly against CBDCs, and it's a good thing on paper. What that looks like practically during an administration is anyone's guess. But there's a lot of people that really want the CBDC, and then we'll see if people can be educated about reasons why it's okay or reasons why it's bad. But I would say it's a lot more bad than good from a liberty and freedom standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's what the state wants to do. A lot of what we're trying to do with Citizens for Sound Money, in conjunction with the Missouri Freedom Initiative and the Economic War Room and a lot of these other grassroots organizations, is to come to events like this and also use social media and conferences and reaching out to other influencers like yourself to kind of spread that message around. We may look at money a little bit differently. I think there are probably 4 or 5 major categories of what people would like money to go to independently. But really what we need to do is unite around a common cause, because if we don't, we're going to be a bunch of splinter groups trying to fight the guys with all the power at the top. And I think what we're going to have to do is all get together and just agree on whatever we agree to use. Maybe we'll do it this way. Let's take the Ron Paul approach and just say we want competing currencies and let people decide for themselves, and let that money manifest from people. Because if you look at the Constitution, all of our powers come from, or all of our rights come from a higher power, and the people ultimately have all of the power. That's the opposite of a strong central government. I think that's the original vision of the founders. And I think that we ultimately have the right to determine what money is, not only from the Constitution, but clearly from the culture of how our country started. And I think it's so important that we in the United States sort of lead that initiative for the rest of the world. We have to be that instigator for the rest of the world, because we started sort of this freedom movement back in 1776. And the answer to a lot of this, to borrow a popular Alex Jones phrase, is the solution in 1984 is 1776, right? What we have to do is go back to our roots in freedom, go back to where the people meet and the people decide what they want the government to look like, what they want the money to look like, and just allow those conversations to occur from that perspective. But given the strong central government that we have now, which I would argue is probably heading more towards a socialist or Marxist type of framework, what do you think do you think changing the money frees the world? Or do you think there are other things that we need to do to where we could, even get to having that free money conversation?
It's a lot of layers of things. For me, I think, actually, to quote Ronald Reagan, all real change starts at the dinner table. And so I think people need to be, finding the right spouse, like marry the right person, have a lot of kids, raise your kids to be good citizens. Those are the people that you can have the most influence over. And, the same thing. I mean, a family in theory could have a dozen kids. I mean, people used to have a dozen kids 100 years ago. There's not really a reason why we can't do it today. But, you go do that. And then within, 100 years, you can have 100 people that were educated just by your family directly, like your genetic progeny here. And so, but you also do the same thing in your communities. So have block parties. Start talking to people about these things. Hand them out things. Say, hey, come eat burgers with us. But also let's talk a little bit about why you should have a little bit of gold, and why I'd be willing to trade with you in gold backs or these kind of things. And you just start to plant those seeds, and then you start to figure out who your allies are. I've been surprised in doing those kinds of things myself to say, you know what? I have 4 or 5 neighbors in a neighborhood of a few dozen houses that are just as educated on it or just as passionate about these concepts as I am. And so in a pinch, like these are the people that you can lean on to say, hey, can you help me educate more people? Or if things get really bad in the meantime, like, hey, it's on us to start to defend, like not one more step on the encroachment on our liberties or our property rights. And so I think a lot of little things like that, not your direct education. I think everybody wants to be a podcaster or something, which, I say as somebody who podcasts professionally, like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but not everybody can do it. And there's a lot of footwork that needs to be done by people that won't get fame from it or anything else. And but it truly needs to be a grass fire. Like people need to be doing a sort of peer-to-peer education and truly building a person-to-person economy that actually functions, not some kind of virtue signaling or this is always kind of what I've hated about you go to an event and say, hey, oh yeah, we accept Bitcoin or we accept gold backs and this kind of thing, and then you go to do it and they're like, oh, how does this damn cash register work? And like, so I mean, nobody's actually doing it in real life. And so we need to be real. We need to be authentic people, and also explain the challenges. Like here's some of the problems of doing business in gold. But also a big one is that sort of real world asset tokenization. I think if there's one way to combine the best aspects of truly sound money with the best aspects of digital currency, it's that. Now, to date, nobody's done this well. I've not seen a product that is both liquid, trustworthy, and scalable. I've not seen those things happen. I've seen a lot of interesting proposals, but I think that could be a really good way. I mean, imagine if using gold was as easy as using Cash App or Venmo just among your friends. That's a game changer, because people can start to see the value of, hey, if I don't spend my money frivolously, I just kind of get a little bit richer over time. It makes me want to invest, makes me want to save. But also, when I need to do business in this currency, it's very simple for me to do that. So we start to make better decisions. We start to make decisions that are not based on debt and interest rates. And then we stop seeing so many absurd bubbles and things because, hey, the interest rates are zero and the money's basically free. And, like nothing is free. And that's something that we need to learn over time too. So I think I actually forget the original question. So sorry.
I think you answered it. Good job. So one of the solutions proposed, of course, is on my shirt here, Kientz, and they're an asset-backed digital currency where you have the Stellar blockchain. Love that or hate that as you will, but it's really just a transmission mechanism. It's how do you get the money from point A to point B, and it's backed by gold and silver. That's a potential solution. I could see any type of commodity-based money or anything that's beyond just here's a pure fiat version, whether it be a pure fiat crypto or even a pure fiat dollar. If you combine the technology of something that people agree has money with the blockchain technology, that could be potentially something that gets wide acceptance. I know Kientz has done this in Indonesia, the 5th largest country in the world. They're using it for the postal system. They're talking with a couple of other countries right now to adopt it as actually a potential legal tender option. So that's an interesting concept to me. Whether or not that ends up going worldwide, I don't know. But I think it's a viable, and it's been proven in a very big context. It does need more adoption. I think the challenge, though, is you're going to want to get it in either a major world power like a China or a Russia, or a major Western economy. Given the Western economy is so ingrained into the central banking system, what I call the central stealing system, inflation-based stealing system, is going to be difficult. You have to get through the regulations and stuff. But do you think that maybe the BRICS nations would be the ones, you look at Zimbabwe with the gold-backed currency. Do you think, Africa or the BRICS nations or those types of nations will be the one that kind of lead the way this time? Maybe it's not going to happen in the U.S. because of the entrenched interests. Maybe we see it start in the third world. Because think about what happened in the U.S. in 1776. We weren't the dominant power. We were the upstart. We were the ones that was saying, hey, we're going to change this world order. We don't like the royal colonization type of model. And we really broke out from that. And that started probably the freest age in man for the last 250 years. Do we have that again? And does it start with money, or Could it be some other nation that nobody's expecting kind of says, no, let's restart the clock on human freedom. We don't have all this embedded base of special interests in money and monetary system that we're having to fight. Let's just start from the beginning and build something that's more free for people, whatever it is. And then that eventually propagates to the rest of the world, because at some point everybody's going to get out of the US dollar, and the US dollar is going to collapse. They're going to try to do CBDCs. But if another country that's not part of that network that's more free to say, okay, we're going to take a different choice, do you think that that's a possibility? It starts somewhere else and eventually makes its way around the world as people begin to see the benefits, especially as you see the declining Western empires and all the ridiculousness we see now, not only from a monetary and inflation perspective, from the lack of respect, the loss of culture. You talked about family, the absolute destruction of, and the attacks on the nuclear family here in the U.S. and the Western world, as our not only the monetary institutions, but as our cultural and political institutions begin to fail in the Western world. But could it be somebody from the emerging markets or the emerging world that leads us into the next era of sound money, freedom for man, that type of thing?
I think you actually said it in the question. I think that, you need to have that cohesive culture. I think that culture must be religious, because that's the ultimate cohesion under pressure. It's real great to be an idealist when you're just having an argument with people on Reddit, but when all of a sudden it's the enemy at the gates, and some of you are going to perish if you continue to stand up for yourselves and for your values. I think it needs to be something bigger than just a theoretical conversation. And so I would look for cultures that are sort of Western in style, but trying to work their way up the ladder, and something that is some culture that is very religious. So I'd be looking at places perhaps like the Philippines, for example, that they have this. They have a bent toward capitalism. They have a bent toward sort of the idealism of Western values, of what are classically American values, not exactly modern American values, but they see themselves as sort of the ideal, what we think of as what the founding fathers look like in paintings, essentially. And so they have that bit of value, and they're also a largely Christian nation. And so you can take those cultural values and those religious values and then teach them about, hey, here are the things that made the West good, and then here's all the baggage that you don't have here. And here are ways that a country like the Philippines can leapfrog past basically everybody. And this is not a 10-year thing. It's probably a generational thing, even in the best case scenario. So we'd be talking 40 or 50 years probably to see a very serious shift in economic might and that kind of thing. But the cool thing is that it takes a very long time to build trains and factories and roads and infrastructure. But I think the economy of the future is much more rapid, because it's a data economy. It is a technology economy, and people in places like the Philippines, and there's probably 5 or 6 other nations that are in a similar or similarly good position to benefit from this, is that they can learn to speak the language of the world, which is English. They can work in any currency that they want because technology makes that possible. And then they can work globally. They have instant access to the global economy because of the internet. And if the entrepreneurs in places like that can come up with a solution for facilitating trade that is better than the dollar and better than whatever else is out there competing, very quickly they can become a world power, and kind of the same ways that the U.S. did. Like, we basically just stood firm on the values of freedom and capitalism and these kind of things, and it turned into the next 250-ish years of wonder that we get to live in. And even as it feels like things are largely winding down for us, we're still living off that momentum of those values from generations ago here in the West. And I think we could see a similar rise in places like that. But I think the ingredients to look for are people that have classically Western values, which include strong religious values. Most typically, I mean Christianity in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then understanding just those couple of ingredients that really made the U.S. great when it was great. And it is that it's a strong family, strong currency, and and strong values that can't just be swayed by here's the next thing on TikTok this week. I think we need to focus on longer term values like we used to, and I don't think that's going to happen largely in the West. I think it's going to come from either the global South or it's going to come from a nation in the Far East.
Yeah, I think you could be correct, and it's interesting to see how the world moves. It sort of moves in epochs, and you can see power shifting, from one society to another, from one area to another. And it's just super interesting how that works. And we, because we all grew up in our time period in the middle of the greatest country ever in terms of freedom and amount of influence we had in the world, we always think it has to start here. And I absolutely don't want to discourage people who are involved in sound money and freedom in the United States. But sometimes I do think it takes a bit of, it does take sometimes somebody from the outside of the establishment to say we really need to make change, and maybe they even have that advantage. The last question I want to ask you, Kurt, before you go, I know you're also doing a lot beyond sound money. You've done a lot in your own personal life in terms of success. And I want to talk about principles of success here for a moment, because I think that principles of success in one area in life transfer to others. I know you've done a lot in terms of fitness and relationship management and things that you've been posting on X and on Twitter. Can you talk about some of the principles of success that you've instituted in your own life, and maybe as a little bit of a way to encourage and to some positivity for people who are out there fighting the good fight every day and seeing all the negativity? How do we stay positive? How do we, be successful, become successful, have quality relationships, take care of ourselves so that we can do all the things that we need to do every day and still, wake up the next day to go fight that fight again?
Sure. For me, it's a piece of advice from my great grandfather, who was himself also a self-made, quite successful gentleman. But he always said, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And he's absolutely right. If I was struggling with, ongoing health concerns and that kind of thing, I would have a lot less time to focus on even just earning basic money, but I would have no time for thinking about bigger ideas and investing in other things. Because truly, for anybody that has to work a 9-to-5 job, that's going to be most of your energy in a day. And if you want to get past working a 9-to-5 job, then you got to put in that extra work. It's got to be, 2 hours in the evening and maybe one or both of your days on the weekend. If you want to also turn your sort of side hustle into a serious replacement of income. But, you're never going to become truly wealthy if you're unhealthy, and you're never going to become truly wealthy if you take your health and don't do anything with it but play video games or watch TV in your free time. You need to put that extra work into something you're passionate about. Now, a really powerful thing that we have today is this social media apparatus where anybody can afford to get a pretty simple microphone. I'm sitting here with a Blue Yeti, costs about $150. I'm using my iPhone for a camera right now, and I have high-speed internet, and that allows me to speak clearly in a place where people can listen to me, and I can have an idea about whatever, and I can spread those ideas. In theory, I can become an influencer about anything if I'm passionate about it, if I stay focused, if I put that work in. And so the opportunity to become wealthy in a way that doesn't require you to be doing hard labor and things is incredible today. But you have to have that passion. You have to be willing to put in that extra 20 or 30 hours a week outside of whatever your base responsibilities are. And also not neglecting yourself. One of the things that I've struggled with is I'm a workaholic, and that's been really great for my economic success. But it also makes it that I have to be very disciplined to remember, you know what? I need to get my 8,000 steps a day. I need to eat like I want to live forever. And I need to get to the gym to make progress, because I need to keep my body fit. I don't want to end up being 50 years old and have type 2 diabetes, and I'm on blood pressure medication, and I struggle to walk up the stairs and that kind of thing. Because, if I take very good care of my body, I could end up living healthily into my 90s. And think about how much more influence I can have on the world if I get to live that long. Think about how much more money I can make if I get to be productive that much later into my life, and then pass on, an inheritance and those values and all those other things. And so, Spouse when you don't have one. It sounds like, man, I really wish I was with a really pretty girl. And maybe having to fly out on a business trip at a moment's notice and make sure that they're capable of being that person that fills in the gaps that are created by your bizarre work schedule. So entrepreneurship requires a lot more than just your basic skills of entrepreneurship. It requires your physical health, and it also requires you to have a partner in your real life that's truly on that journey with you. So work on your health and work on your relationships, and the rest of it then becomes possible. So that's my advice on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt, so much for joining the channel. We've got this live streamed. We're also going to put a recording up on our channels as well. Appreciate the time. For people that want to reach you, find you on social media, find your message, please give us, all of that information here at the end of the program so that they can do that.
So I'm at kurtwuckertjr.com and Kurt Wuckert JR on social media everywhere. So that includes Instagram, X, Facebook. I think it's also on TikTok, which I have been neglecting. So I need to get up on the TikTok also. But basically, if you Google my name, Kurt Wuckert JR, you can find me basically anywhere. I answer all my DMs. They take time sometimes to get back to, but I do follow up on my DMs, and I'd love to come speak, come work with people, and I'm an open book when it comes to that stuff. So, Rob, thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite. It was good to catch up with you. Yeah, good to catch up with you as well. You've been such a big supporter of our channel, being gold and silver focused. Now we're focused more on the overall principles of freedom. But I think it shows that people that may come at the money problem from different angles can work together. And I think that's the key for us to kind of move past this current fiat situation we're in. So I'm really thankful for you to being open to speaking with different communities. And thank you so much for doing that. For sure. All right. Until next time, Kurt, appreciate you very much. And we're live here from PorcFest. We'll keep it up after Kurt. We've got Steffi coming later today. We've got Alex Newman as well. And stay tuned to the channel. You can find us on the Freedom Report. And you can also find us on Citizens for Sound Money.
Thank you for coming on, Kurt. And we are just we're going to continue on with our show. And we've got quite a few people here today. Let me show you the screen.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Yep.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
We are live. The gold bag booth is busy. People buying gold bags left and right. Some wide view that we had earlier of our. But yeah, who do we have next coming up? What time?
At 3 p.m. Eastern time, we've got Steffi, the Financial Fox, coming to talk about all things digital. She's a wonderful resource there in Europe for what's going on in the European scene in the digital world. We're headed to a digital world, whether you like it or not. If you're just analog, this may be the opportunity for you to understand what's going on digitally and how to maintain your freedom, not only monetary freedom, but your personal freedom in a digital world. We're going to talk about that with Steffi. And then at 4 p.m. Eastern, right after Steffi, we're going to talk to Alex Newman, who's done so much in the realm of family freedom and individual freedom and against a lot of the wokeism and that type of thing that we don't like to see in this world. He's a huge resource. He's blown up lately. He's been on TV and things. So certainly love to see his success. He's going to rejoin the program here at 4 p.m. right after Steffi to talk about that. Of course, we'll be on the main stage. I'll be on the main stage at 5 p.m. today. So if you're here at PorcFest, come see me at 5 p.m. And of course, we're in the tent here with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, Alpine Gold, Citizens for Sound Money, talking to you guys live if you're here in New Hampshire. And we'll repost a lot of this content as well on our channels as we go on throughout the day. So thanks, Daniel, for having me on to the broadcast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rob, for coming on. Well, we're going to be broadcasting pretty much the rest of the afternoon. We'll probably take a break around 1 o'clock. We'll broadcast for 2 hours, take about a 1 hour intermission, and then get back to the topic at hand. But yesterday I spoke, Rob, about a Foundation of Freedom, or the Sound Money Movement, a Foundation of Freedom, and I basically went through the intro of who Citizens for Sound Money is, what the movement is, my background, and so forth, and it resonated well with the audience. And What are you gonna? Do you want to hint to people what you're gonna talk about? The people that aren't at PorcFest, they won't even at least be able to hear your talk. But do you want to hint to the people that are listening in from PorcFest what you're gonna be talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking about the future of money after the dollar. We know the dollar is basically going away. I think everybody here is pretty much understands that. We're going to talk about all the post-dollar currency alternatives. We're going to talk about barter. If you're big into that, you're a libertarian or anarchist, and you want to be able to just trade skills for goods or goods for goods. We're going to talk about asset-backed digital currencies, which is a digital currency backed by a real asset. We're going to talk about cryptocurrencies. We're going to talk about the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies that the world is wanting to put in, the central banks are wanting to put in. And we're just going to have a discussion on that. I have the fortunate, just doing what I do on social media, being able to connect with a lot of people. One of the people I connected with worked for intelligence for the government and is now retired, and did a lot of research into the monetary issue and provided me a lot of research. I did my own research. I have somebody that worked on one of the working committees in the BIS for the CBDCs and provided me a lot of educational information that isn't necessarily, it's available to them, but it's not necessarily public. So that discussion will be very well informed of what's going on with the CBDCs. I want to bring that to you guys so you completely understand, so that you will have the information that you need to make decisions in your own life about your finances and about money and what's best for you and your family. And that's really what we want to center on, is community and family. We believe society is built around, it starts with the family, it starts with individuals, and then the family, and then the community around it. And honesty is a function of that local economy, not necessarily what somebody says sitting on high in an ivory tower somewhere in Brussels or somewhere, in New York or in Washington, D.C. So that's what our talk's going to be about. We're really excited for that. And then afterwards, we're going to come back right over here to the tent where we're broadcasting from, and we're going to have a silent auction and a little get together with some wine, some beer, and a raffle, and some items that you can buy to help support Citizens for Sound Money and our efforts to bring education to the people. So please feel free to step by the tent after our 5 p.m. talk, and we'll have that little get together as well.
Yeah, you're going to see in the wide view some of the items. We actually have a coin that you brought in that was graded at an 86 and it's from 17 what?
1797 is a U.S. dollar, a 13-star large letter dollar. That's in amazing condition. There's no corrosion. It was cleaned, but it's a beautiful coin. Still has original coin luster on it. To see this coin that's, 200 and what is that? Almost 30 years old.
Yeah. Be
in the shape that it's in is fantastic. And it's a rare one to be in that condition. So we have that here on the table. We've got an old trade dollar. We've got some of those historical coins. We've got some more modern bullion as well as we've got some jewelry. So if you're looking for something for the missus or maybe for the family, or you're female and you're like, hey, I may not be interested in old coins, but I'll take a look at your jewelry. We've got some of those items as well. Now, all of that does benefit C4SM. So those are things that I've donated, for the cause. It helps pay for this event and all the events that we're doing. And maybe Daniel, later on, you can get into all of the wonderful things that C4SM is doing to bring this information to people and to fight for legislation and to fight for things that would help us in each state. In these states, the 10th Amendment says the states and the people hold all rights as not specifically outlined in the Constitution. So we're working state by state, community by community to bring the message of sound freedom to the people. And all the items that we have in that silent auction and in the raffle we'll have this evening at 6 p.m. here at PorcFest are going to go to benefit that cause.
Absolutely. And we actually, Rob, you are our newest board member at Citizens for Sound Money, and we have one of our newest advisory board members, Daniel Tinkham. Welcome to the live broadcast. And Daniel, you told us, actually, Silver Dave on the broadcast yesterday told us that you actually had a full-sized pure silver sword manufactured.
Sterling silver.
Sterling silver.
What an honor and pleasure to be here, guys.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thrilled for the world to see the sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite something.
And bring the mic a little closer to your.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. No, we're excited. And what brought you to PorcFest? I know why Rob came. We wanted him to have a broadcast. We have quite a few people here. He's a board member, and this is our first as an organization event at PorcFest. And this is your first as well, right?
It is, yeah. This is just such an honor to be here. I live 2 hours south of here, and I brought my father. We drove up here, and for me, it's something that is really true and near and dear to my heart. Sound money, and it's misunderstood by most people, and gold and silver is the future, and as well as cryptos. But yeah, just so thrilled to be here and share sound money principles and yeah. So it's just an honor to be here.
So both you and Rob are pretty much analysts in the market, right? You're more an analyst on the like futures and stocks, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, well, I spent 15 years, under the Securities and Exchange umbrella as a Series 7 advisor. I removed that last year after realizing I could, work with accredited only investors and not be licensed. So from that standpoint, just my goal is to really teach people about the financial system, what's going on in the world. I do that undercover as well. So I have a social media channel that I have quite a large number of followers, but I want that to be separate from this. And my goal is really for this to be such a grassroots movement. What Citizens for Sound Money is doing is like nothing that's ever happened in the world. Just this, it's so grassroots, and it just, it brought me into it. And I'm just, again, it's the movement is still in its infancy. So we're getting people on silver, gold backs. I know you're doing a lot of teaching on cryptos, and but the fact of the matter is, fiat is eating away at the soul of our nation.
Yes, 100%.
That's the gist of why I'm here. For my kids.
So,
Yep, it's so important.
And that's what I find a lot. Like, it's our generation and older generations that want to fight so that their kids won't suffer, because we see the writing on the wall. We see that the end of the dollar and if not a total collapse, at least the collapse of the U.S. dollar as the currency of the world is coming. And when we see throughout history that every empire that was the super empire of the world collapses, it's typically first economically, then militarily. Mm-hmm. So we saw that with Great Britain. We saw that with Spain. We saw that throughout Germany. We saw that throughout human history with every single empire, the Roman Empire.
Every 80 to 120 years, since the 1400s of the Portuguese, and then the Dutch, and the French, and then the British. I'm missing one of
Spanish, I think.
Spanish. Every 80 to 120 years. History can give us the answers today, but we have to go back, apply what they knew and what they did, and where they went wrong.
Yeah.
And then, apply that to today. And it's gold, silver, and crypto.
And what would both you and Rob, what would your advice be for people who, look, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have a savings. They don't have a windfall. What is your recommendation to these Americans that are struggling every single day to make ends meet? How can they protect themselves?
Education is key, and there's so much education out there that you can get for free online through places like Citizens for Sound Money that can then guide people in the right direction. And it's only about $2.50 to buy a dime. You can start somewhere, for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. You don't have to have a lot of money. I mean, I owned a store for a little over a year, and we've done online sales. I've represented other companies over the years. And the ability to learn, from people, and then also to engage with the community about gold and silver, it's really not that difficult to figure out how to own gold and silver. And it's very inexpensive. Buying a dime for a couple of bucks, and having that appreciation and value. If you just hold your money in the bank account and you put, you have $2 in your bank account, next year it may be worth $1.50 if you're lucky. If you put it into silver, that $2 may be worth $2.15. It's gonna, especially gold and silver, capture that inflation. They give you that value over time. And even though they go up and down via the spot price, and we've talked about that on the channel, the long-term value savings that you have in a commodity-based money is basically just capturing inflation. And if you do that, you're able to save in a way that doesn't eat at the value of your savings. And really what it is you're trying to save your labor. You're trying to save the labor you did at your job, at your business, at your whatever, that you're now putting into some sort of currency or money. And the difference between the dollar is it's a currency. It's not a store of value. So if you keep a lot in the dollar for the long term, you're losing the value, per the inflation rate. And we know that the CPI is a ridiculous number. We know it's a lot higher. Go look at shadowstats.com. But if you put it in commodity-based money or investments like good businesses and things like that, or arable farmland, those types of things, or maybe you're getting into cryptos, and you get into one you think is going to hold value long term. Those types of things are what's really going to hold value, much more than putting your money in the bank. Because what happens when you put your money in the bank, you lose the value of inflation every year. Plus, they take your money and they may give you 1/4% in your bank account if you're lucky, but they may go put it in a highly speculative investment, earning 10, 12, 14%. And anybody that looked at my Twitter yesterday that looked at the real estate complex and the banks, I did 2 postings, one yesterday, one today. Real estate is in complete collapse. We're having buildings in Manhattan where investors are losing 100% of their value. In Manhattan, the financial capital of the world, commercial real estate's crashing, and the banks have the most unrealized losses on their portfolios that they've had, as far as that statistic's being kept, and it dwarfs what we saw in 2008 when we had a banking crisis. That even if you have your money in the bank, forget just inflation, you could lose your principal. And they're investing your money in that crap that's crashing right now. What are the chances that you're even going to have all that money next year? You're thinking I put it in the bank for safety. I'm here to tell you there is no safety in the banks.
No.
The banks are not safe. You must endeavor to put it somewhere where it's going to stay value over time.
Well, how about real estate? We saw something this morning about real estate, the market crashing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. If you look at my Twitter today, there's a posting on a specific building, but this is it's a microcosm of both the Manhattan real estate market and the UK market, because the UK and Manhattan are coming under pressure at the same time. Why is that important? Because in the city of London, in the center of London, is a financial center, the biggest financial center in the world. The second biggest is New York, or you could, interchange those. The 2 biggest financial centers of the modern world are having real estate crashes. Okay, and what that's forecasting is a real estate crash across the UK, across Europe, across the United States. And in this particular Manhattan building, there are 5 groups of investors. The largest group of investors lost 30%. Those are the premium investors, lost 1/3 of their value this year. Within the last couple of months. The other 4 groups of junior investors lost 100% of their value. Now, think about the investments in that real estate. It's not individuals investors just, it's also a lot of companies and ETF funds in the financial sector investing in that real estate. Well, guess where that money comes from? It comes from your bank account, right? It comes from you saving in dollars in the bank account. So you don't know, because it's an unrealized loss. It hasn't been reported to your bank yet, but it will be soon when that thing goes under. And this is following the big issues with the Chinese real estate sector. Real estate around the world is in a bubble. It's starting to crash. We can see it in the data. We can see it in the reports. And so if you're going to buy real estate, you want to buy something that's not highly speculative. The only thing that did better in gold and silver during the Great Depression was arable farmland and ranch land. And if you own that for 10 years or more during, recessions and depressions, those things tend to hold value. But if you're in these real estate investment trusts and you're investing in commercial real estate and shopping centers and even houses, I hate to tell you, but we're at the end of that bubble, and that's going to start come crashing down. And the data just speaks to that. It's just amazing, what we're seeing there.
Yeah, for me, it's about invest in what you know. Being inside the financial system as long as I was, one of the great secrets that I recently discovered was in the Great Taking, was where it's actually not your bank account. It's you're a beneficial owner of that interest. And if they bail in, which they've only done bailouts, but under the Dodd-Frank in 2010, they changed that to bail in. Now all of a sudden they can exchange your deposit for stock shares in the bank. And we know the FDIC has a little over 100 billion left in reserves, which is going to cover 1 to 2 cents on the dollar. And that's probably conservative. It's probably worse than that.
So, for those who can't buy land right now, you guys mentioned constitutional, silver, the dimes, quarters. What and it's maybe somebody is in an urban area, they can't find a coin shop where they can find constitutional silver. What practical steps could you recommend to the average Joe in, let's say, New York, Detroit, Miami, that is looking to start putting money aside, or their hard-earned wage? Where should they put their money? They can't buy land. They might not be able to find constitutional silver. What are your recommendations?
Well, my friend Rafi Farber says that it's going to take maybe 75 to 100 ounces of silver to buy, a residential property at some point. And I don't know exactly when that'll be or timing. Timing is a fool's game, but if it's 100 ounces for a 3-bedroom house at some point, I would encourage people to really stack silver, gold, look at high quality assets, super high quality real estate. I help investors allocate their capital, oil and gas projects, water projects, things that are physical, things that are tangible, things that are outside of the financial system is where I'm advising my clients.
Rob?
Yeah. Well, what you can do, first of all, is you can order it. I mean, if you really want gold and silver and you can't find a local coin shop that you trust, or maybe there's just not one around the corner, there are lots of places you can go. Like you can go to our social media and find a link where we can help you. Don't necessarily want to advertise myself, but there are tons of reputable companies out there. You look for a good price on a product that you want. You look at reviews like you would if you're going to Amazon. You can do that. You can also go to Kinesis. So if you sign up an account at kinesis.money, you can electronically wire money to them and put your money in gold and silver that's audited, and then it's put on the blockchain. And by the way, there's no storage fees for going to Kinesis, because they put money in motion. They circulate money. To make gold and silver money again, we have to circulate it. You can't stick it in your basement. So if you just go to somebody and put your money in and it's sitting in a warehouse, you've guaranteed that gold and silver cannot be money, because it's not moving. It's not money if it's not moving. It's a store of value, but it's not money. It doesn't have all the characteristics of money. It needs to be exchanged for goods and services and things like that. So at Kinesis, they put this into play to where you get benefits for using the money and transacting in the money that pays for storage fees. The storage fees for them, based on the money they make on transactions, is a rounding error. So they don't even charge you for it. And on top of that, you actually get a yield for putting it with them. So you get a little bit of money for putting it with them, like the banks used to do with your fiat, but now they're doing that with gold and silver. So you can set that up very easily. You just go through your KYC procedures like you would your bank. They validate who you are. All of that is audited. The actual gold and silver, in their vaults is audited by a major provider that's well known in the industry, so it's safe. And they have instituted this across the Indonesian postal system. Indonesia is the 5th largest country in the world. They put this into play at a major sovereign country, 270 million people, and it's working. And so this is a proven product. They've de-risked the actual implementation of that product, so you can trust it. It's a great way to do it. So lots of ways to do it. You can do it electronically. You can have somebody mail it to you if you want. Lots of different ways to do it if you get really creative. I think there are lots of options.
And we just had Silver Dave walk in. Silver Dave was with us yesterday. He showed us, actually, here is a tube of his 1/10 ounce rounds, and this is Rob Kientz.
There you go. How you doing?
Familiar.
I think we talked online before.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. Yeah, we did.
Good that you're here. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
And also, Dan, I just found out that I needed to restart my phone. It wasn't working, so I don't know if you were trying to get hold of me. Less show, but more planning here.
Yeah.
When do you want to do?
Right now.
All right.
Now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you ready right now?
With the sword?
Dan,
So they're talking about Silver Dave is the one that made the real life size sword for Dan Tinkham, and they're planning to. I don't know what you guys are planning. What are you planning?
well,
When
so
you see it, you'll know.
Okay.
Oh, surprise.
give them a spin.
Yeah.
Here, yeah.
So as you know, Dan, who's a wonderful guy and a great customer, and obviously a major silver enthusiast, he bought the first full-size sterling silver sword, which we were thinking we may want to name it the Sword of Sound Money.
Ah, yes.
And we were thinking that Dan was going to take the sword out and walk around the campground. Yeah. And walk around the campground wielding the sword to cast a spell for freedom and liberty.
There you go.
And towards free economics and freedom-based money. And we're going to show it, and we're going to film it and film people's reaction to it. And also in case he may check people, ask people, say, hey, you got silver, you got FRNs, and you might cut their head off. They only have FRNs. We'll film it if he chooses to do that. Just kidding. Don't cut anyone's head off, please. Just for liability purposes.
Yeah.
For after the show. So that's basically in a nutshell, and it sounds like we're getting ready to do this real soon.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So if you're listening to this
Exciting.
podcast and you're at Rogers Campground right now, then over the next hour, you're probably going to see us walking through, making laps through the campsite. And when you see a guy with a sparkling, reflective silver sword that looks like it's a cartoon in real life,
It's a sight to be seen.
then that, keep an eye out for that, and we'll film it, and we'll see what people's reaction to it is, and hopefully the spell you cast makes a big difference in the situation. If nothing else, maybe helps pump people up a little.
Dave,
There
I'd
you
like
go.
to thank you and your team. You guys did a phenomenal job with
Thank
it.
you.
You really did.
I think you should stand
Craftsmanship.
at the top of the hill in the moonlight with the sword, and that's where you're going to cast a spell, the moonlight power. You're going to get everybody with it.
So
It's a great idea.
We're gonna bless New Hampshire with sound.
There you go.
tell the listeners where they can find your shop, where they can find you, where they can order from you.
Thank you. So if you want to buy our products, you can check out localsilvermint.com. You can buy online from our top dealers, which you'll see listed on that page, or you can walk into our local store in Ware, New Hampshire, and buy our products tax-free in our beautiful showroom.
And the sword will be on display.
And that's right. You can see the sword, which Dan has been so kind as to put on consignment for display so that people who want to come in and see it for themselves, they can come in the store, they can see it. You can buy the sterling silver swords, the 1/3 of the half size. You can buy our 1/10 ounce for barters and trades, or our conventional bullion products that are, that we don't make, but that are low premium over spot. And our prices are in direct competition with the online dealers. And people come from far and wide, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, all to shop us tax-free. So check us out, Local Silver Mint in Ware, New Hampshire, or localsilvermint.com. Thank you so much, folks, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. And we want to support the local mints. We love the local mints. So always support those guys. You guys work very hard. We're talking about community today and sound money, and your sound money and serving your local community. So it's so important. Thank you for doing that.
Rob, I really appreciate that. And not to go on too long, but one more note. Our 1/10 ounce silver is accepted at almost every vending station on the camp right now.
As it should be.
Thank you. And so it's community that's distributing the silver
Yes.
and making it work and functional. And I think that's really important. So thanks, Rob. And are you going to be here beyond this afternoon?
Yeah, I'll be here. I've got the 5 p.m. here at the stage, but I'll be here all through Saturday.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I do want to try to find a time to talk with you when we're both not busy.
Yeah.
Sometime before Sunday.
Let's find each other tomorrow. Absolutely.
Tomorrow, if it's in the earlier or the later part of the day, I am going to be here with Yankee Stacking all day
Okay.
tomorrow buying silver. Maybe we'll interact with you.
Let's do that.
together.
I'd love to meet Yankee Stacking. So come find me and we'll
You
go.
know him already.
I do not.
So do you have my cell number?
No, but we can exchange it off air.
All right. So I'm going to give the microphone back, and I'm going to give you a little piece of paper with my info on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So thank you for the compliments, and thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Silver Dave. All right. That was actually Alex Newman. Alex Newman called. He was calling back to just talk to us.
Sweet.
But we'll get back to him. All right. Well, are you heading out right now, Daniel?
Yeah.
The sword? All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Good to meet you, Daniel.
Too.
All right. So we talked about the real estate market crash. We've
Yes.
talked about practical steps on what people can do, and I think the easiest way, because we live in an electronic world, is to get people to buy asset-backed digital currencies through Kinesis, through Glint, through Load, through any of the asset-backed digital currency companies out there. And right now, the only company that I am invested in that has a debit card in the U.S. where you can spend gold is Glint. But soon, I know in Q3 that Kinesis should be launching something.
Yes, they are.
Also, Load will be launching something. Load just actually started issuing a copper-backed digital currency. And yeah, I mean and the reason why I'm saying asset-backed digital currency is because you can take as little as $5, $10 wired or ACH to Kinesis or to Glint or to Load. Oh, not Load, Glint or Kinesis, and then you can convert that into gold. And you can start with Glint. You can start spending it with a card right away, and eventually with Kinesis you will too.
Yeah, I think the cool thing here is the last few years, there are a lot of companies that have come online pretty much at the same time, promoting, getting into gold and silver, use of the blockchain, things like that, to facilitate more honest money. And they have their on-ramps and off-ramps, and the ones that don't are getting them right now. So I think we live in the era of technology married to sound money and the benefits that that's going to bring. And I think there are going to be more than one option. And of course, this is great, at the same time as we're stepping out and working with the states to implement these sound money procedures, that we're going to have vendors that have ready-made products. It's not something you're going to have to wait 10 or 15 years for. this is something that you're going to see, you know, in your neck of the woods here pretty soon. So if you're interested not only in investing in gold and silver, but maybe, you know, other forms of sound money and being able to on and off ramp it and use it in your everyday life and in an easy way, you know, certainly we're partnering with lots of different providers that do that and recommend them all. I think they're all good companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we're at the bottom, near the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a 1 hour intermission at 1 p.m. So I want to discuss what we are doing for the rest of PorcFest today and then tomorrow. So today we have at 5 p.m. Rob Kientz will be giving his talk on the dollar currency alternatives. Is that the name of the talk?
Yeah, post-dollar currency alternatives.
Post-dollar currency alternatives, and immediately following, actually, here's an incentive for you guys to come down and listen to Rob. If you come and listen to Rob Kientz, we Citizens for Sound Money are going to give you a dollar certificate where you can come in, turn in, and get 1 ounce of KAG for free. KAG is a Kinesis silver. You'll get 1 free silver ounce if you stay for Rob's entire talk. Afterwards, you can come over to the tent, redeem that silver, and then while you're redeeming that silver, you can also take part of our auctions and tell the audience some of the things that have been brought in for the silent auction and the door prizes and so forth.
Yeah, so we are going to have a silent auction going all day today. In fact, we may do that tomorrow as well. And that auction is we have a lot of different items. I brought some jewelry items for people that may be interested in buying something for their lady, or the ladies here that are interested as well. Or, you know, hey, some guys like jewelry as well. We also have some older coins. I have a 1797 US dollar. We have some trade dollars. We have some collectibles. We have some modern day themed American Eagles. I have a couple of collectible pieces that are made of silver, which you're not going to find anywhere else. One of those is from the Lithuanian mint, and yes, the Lithuanian mint that was shipped over to me a few months ago. I think I'm the only one that has it. It's a beautiful 2-ounce coin modeled off of Dorian Gray that has a raised relief design. It's a gorgeous piece. We have those, as well as if you come over to our tent after the talk, which would be at 6 p.m., we're going to have a little get together. We're going to have some wine and some beer and some snacks. If you guys purchase some raffle tickets or some entrance tickets, you'll be able to get that for free. And then also you can either buy the silent auction items now. We have a buy it now price, kind of like on eBay, but we also have, you can bid on them as well. And all of the proceeds from those items and from the event that we're going to have this evening go towards Citizens for Sound Money and the effort that we have to pay not only for this conference, but our education that we're coming out with, the legislation that we're putting forth to make gold and silver money again, and all the things that we do through this organization, really, that we're doing for you. But, you know, we are a nonprofit, so we're trying to raise some money, you know, for those efforts. And appreciate if guys just stop by. Even if you don't think that you're going to bid on the items, please stop by and talk to us. We'd be happy to talk to you, educate you on sound money, or listen to your stories about why you believe in sound money and why you're here at PorcFest in the first place. What are the reasons why you're here? We want to hear all those reasons, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And then tomorrow morning, starting at 8 a.m. through 11 a.m., we're going to be doing a Ron Paul breakfast with breakfast burritos, locally sourced. We had a local Mexican restaurant provide these burritos, and it's going to be right before Ron Paul's talk. So if you come at 8 a.m., actually 8:30 a.m., and stay for our panel, and our panel is called, let's see, The Role of Sound Money and Bringing Freedom Back to the People with Rob, myself, and Aaron Day. We are going, is it Aaron Day? I think we have Aaron Day on there. Yes. Aaron Day, we're going to, if you stay for the whole thing, you will also get a free silver ounce as well. And then we will also have breakfast being served while Ron Paul speaks remotely.
And to add to that, because Aaron's going to be at our talk tomorrow, I also want to advertise him a little bit. He's in the tent as well. He's got autographed books that he's brought, as well as books for some other resources. He is a big freedom advocate. He and I agree a lot on what's going on with CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, and the threat that poses. So feel free to come by and speak to him as well, and support him and his mission in educating people about the dangers of central bank digital currencies and really picking the best post-dollar currency alternative that I'll be talking about today at 5 p.m.
Absolutely. And lastly, we have our 50-50 raffle results. Yesterday, the grand prize winner won 82 dirty money fiat and, and 11 gold backs for an total fiat value of $136.12.
Very nice.
Tickets are $5 each, or you can get a discount if you bought 5 of them, or 6. If you paid with 5 gold backs, you'd actually get 6 raffle tickets. We're encouraging people to pay with real money instead of dirty money. So if you want to be a part, we've opened up the 50-50 raffle for our online audience. If you want to be a part of the 50-50 raffle, go on to, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the QR code again. Here you go, QR code. The US dollar QR code or the Bitcoin QR code. Send either $50 worth of actually, no, we can't do the $50 worth of Bitcoin. That's something else. Sorry. Highlight the US dollar QR code. Send $5, $10, or $20. If you do $20, we'll give you 5 tickets. If you only do $10, we'll give you 2 tickets. So it's better to do, 5 tickets for $20. Go ahead and send that, and then tell us your phone number and tell us your email address, and we will actually write down physically the raffle tickets and enter you into the raffle to be a part of the winnings. So that is the announcements for today. Anything else you think we can discuss about PorcFest or what's going on?
Let's just talk in general about freedom. We were talking about going beyond the money aspects of it, because money is really one of the foundational pieces behind freedom. I would also say cultural and the political economy. Let's talk more just broadly about freedom. What does freedom mean? How did you get into this, and why is this so important to you?
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you bring up, because when I now tell the story of my background, because Jim Forsyth, our founder, he told me when I was about to testify in Missouri, I had a completely different talking point set up. He's like, "You need to start with your story." I'm like, "What story?" He's like, "The one you told us when we first met about your Cuban background." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Are you sure?" I thought I had something set up. No, he's like, "That's very powerful." And ever since then, I've been opening up every single speech, every single every single time I testified with my story, because it tells people and informs them why I'm doing this. So I'm a first generation Cuban American, and my family, when as I was growing up, told me about how we had businesses, how we had farmland, um, multiple properties, multifamily properties, and that was all taken away from us in Cuba. And my grandfather was, if you don't know about communist states, every communist state has a communist informant on your floor if you live in a multi-story building, or on your block if you live in a street. And that communist informant is the snitch. He snitches to the Communist Party and the Communist Police. So my grandfather actually gave more rations, or gave some cash, or bribed the butcher to give my family extra meat. The communist informant on the street found out, informed the state police. State police came, arrested my grandfather, threw him in jail, I think for 2 or 3 days. He was then released, and that was the decision when my grandfather said, "We need to go." This was in 1965. So they packed up immediately. They left to Havana Airport. When they got to Havana Airport, the communist state confiscated everything, because everything is the property of the state, and they literally flew to Miami with nothing but the clothes on their back. If it wasn't for family and friends that were already here, my family would have been on the streets. But they were able to get a small studio apartment, and my mom, my aunt, my grandfather, and my grandmother lived in a small studio apartment in Miami, Hialeah, Florida. And my grandfather, he had a construction company in Cuba. When he came here, he had to start from the bottom. He was pouring cement all throughout Miami. That's where he started in 1965. And to make ends meet, they would go to a local grocery store called Sedano. So like a Cuban grocery store. It was like 1 or 2 back then. It's now a big chain. And my grandmother would get pies, cut it up for the construction workers, wrap it up, and then sell it for a quarter or whatever it was back then to make some extra money. America provided the opportunity for the American dream for my family. And my grandfather started off pouring cement in the 60s. Throughout the 70s, he moved up the ranks, eventually bought the construction company, sold the construction company in the 80s, retired in his 50s, and left our family an inheritance. So hearing about how Cuba stole everything from my family, and then how America provided all the opportunities to rebuild our family's wealth, I promised myself at a young age, at the age of 17, that I would never allow what happened to my family's country to happen to my country. So since the age of 16, I've been fighting socialism and communism in every way that I can, and I have a 23-year history in political activism and political campaigning and consulting. I've worked on everything from municipal campaigns up to presidential campaigns, and I ran multiple super PACs throughout that 23-year history. I took a 3-year sabbatical to get my master's, and while I was getting my master's, I was a full-time insurance agent. After I graduated from grad school, I became a stockbroker because I wanted to help people earn more money than annuities and insurance whole life could provide. And I got my Series 7. I hated Wall Street so much because all they cared about was the almighty dollar. And after 5 months, I left Wall Street, a cesspool of corruption, back into another cesspool of corruption politics. So
Right.
that's my story. And how did I get into the sound money movement? Well, COVID hit, and I was doing some jujitsu. I hurt my back. I was mentioning to Kurt. And I was walking with a cane, and I had to come up with. I couldn't run my direct mail marketing company anymore. I had to, when you're doing printing, you got to carry papers, you got card stock, and you have to stand the entire time of running the address system of the machine. I just couldn't do it anymore, so I had to come up with ideas on how to make passive income, and I came up with a car rental business. I had a fleet of cars during COVID. I met my business partner, who our lovely volunteer Jennifer that you guys seen. We started a couple other retail businesses and so forth. And she came up with ideas like, hey, why don't we take some of our business capital and invest it in Bitcoin? And this was like March of 2020, or April of 2020. I'm like, absolutely not. No, I mean, I was a stockbroker. There's nothing backing this Bitcoin thing. It's like Tulip, it's just going to collapse. And then week after week, month after month, she's like, we should invest. Yeah, mind you, Bitcoin was like at $3,500 or $5,000 at the time. I'm kicking myself. I should have listened to Jennifer.
Yeah.
But eventually she teamed up with a buddy of mine, Dan, who was also a Bitcoin max, and he started tag teaming me. By August or September, I think it was September, I told both of them, stop talking to me about Bitcoin. I'm never investing into Bitcoin. Forget about it. Stop. Dan called me. He's like, bro, let me come over and let's show you 2 videos. And if after these 2 videos, if you're not convinced about Bitcoin and blockchain, we'll stop talking to you. Well, I didn't even need to watch the second video. The first video convinced me. It was a Don Tapscott. It was a talk called How Blockchain is Changing Money in the World or something like that. It was in 2016. And it went through everything, the security, the decentralization, everything about Bitcoin. But what stood out to me the most was 3/4 through the talk on TED Talk. He was talking about how the blockchain it was immutable, and you could eventually add contracts and add deeds, land deeds, onto the blockchain to prove ownership for generations to come. And he was talking about a story and how 70% of the world's population have tenuous titles and deeds. They never own their property. It's leased from the government. And then he also talked about Nicaragua when they had the communists. The communists deleted and destroyed land deeds and titles, put their communist friends' names on the land deeds and titles, went to the landowners with guns, like, hey, your deed says it's your name, but our government deed said it's my buddy's name. Get off the property at gunpoint. And he made the point. He's like, imagine if we was in the blockchain, and boom, it clicked. I'm like, holy crap. Blockchain. If we
Blockchain would revolutionize
Yeah.
The mortgage industry. It would revolutionize the title industry in the United States. It would make owning real estate so much cheaper.
Yes.
Because all that stuff would be immutable on the blockchain, indisputable. Right now, I don't know if people know that I was a real estate investor for 18 years. If you go buy a piece of real estate, the title companies get lazy. They look back about 10 to 20 years. Well, a few years ago, I decided to go cure the title of all my real estate properties that I invested in my home. In the state of Texas, we have our own land office, the Texas Land Office, because we were our own country at one point. And all of the titles come down from Spain and the Spanish ownership. We took those titles and we put them in English, and then that's where they're originally Spanish land grants. They weren't Texas or United States land grants. And I cured my title, and I found some issues with some of my properties and the titles along the way, which I had to cure. The title companies never found this because they don't look. And so I cured them by myself. And then I thought, well, you don't really own your property unless you do your own due diligence. Do not do not wait on the mortgage company, do not wait on the title company, you must do it yourself. Well, if we had the blockchain, wouldn't all that go away? Once you
Yeah,
put it on the blockchain,
100%.
it's there. It's indisputable at that point in time. And if you need to cure something, you do it at the time you do the transaction.
Yeah, and all those points you just made, I realized that if we had blockchain technology in the 50s, and let's say the communist revolution happened, they kicked my family out anyway, and they took all the land. If I realized if at some point in the future we were able to overthrow the communist regime, we could go back to the blockchain and point and say, look, my
Yep.
family originally owned this land. We can either get the land back or get reparations from the government. And I'm like, holy crap, blockchain technology can provide more economic, personal, and political liberty than any political activity of man. So I dove deep into blockchain technology. I invested in the Bitcoin October of that year. Then I wanted to learn about Bitcoin mining. I went down the Bitcoin mining rabbit hole, started mining with GPUs in November, and by January I started mining company Mining Life and blockchain consulting company. So within 3 months after learning about blockchain technology, I'm already in the industry. And then I started investing also in NFTs or in the NFT craze. I more than doubled my money. And then I started providing high interest loans to people who needed some liquidity for the NFTs through a project called NFT-Fi. And I was doing 90-day loans at high interest, and the more experienced lenders like, whoa, relax. What happens? You got to be careful because NFTs can go to zero like that with bad news. Do short-term loans. So I started doing like 2, 3, 7-day loans at like 300% interest, right, or something ridiculous. Depending on if it was a board at yacht club, it'd be lower. It'd be like 100%. And I asked myself, like, man, NFTs have no real value. And it's like the dollar, it's like fiat. Like, how can I guarantee that the NFT will always have a floor price? And that was always the challenge. So in December, I started thinking about this in November of 22, December of 22. And then I called one of my developer buddies. And I'm like, hey, is it possible to add PAX G to an NFT so it always has a floor price? He's like, oh, absolutely, we can do that. And that's where I came up with Meta Gold Miners Club. And Meta Gold Miners Club is an NFT project where we incentivize people to learn about sound money principles and financial literacy. And as they take the quizzes and learn about that and they pass, they're then airdropped Wrap Bitcoin and PAX G at the time. So I didn't know anything about sound money beyond my education of Bitcoin sound money aspect. So I was looking for somebody in the gold and silver industry, and when I typed in sound money, well, Citizens of Sound Money popped up. I emailed Marianne Ward and Jim Forsyth, and that's how I got connected with Citizens of Sound Money. And then my interview with Jim is in my story because he related to his time in the Soviet Union. And him and I talked, and he's like, you know what, let's start talking some more. We can partner with your Meta Gold Miners Club. And then we heard about the transactional gold bill in Texas, and I offered my services for free. I'm like, hey, I've been lobbying for years. I got contacts in Austin. Let me see if we can help push this through. And then that is what caused the board and Jim to offer me a position as legislative director, and then eventually executive director of Citizens for Sound Money.
And so glad you're here because you're really the impetus along with other groups, Economic War Room, Missouri Freedom Initiative, but you're really the driving impetus behind the grassroots effort. To give you some credit here, Citizens for Sound Money probably, with all apologies to our various partners, whom we love, by the way, is probably at this point the most organized and fastest growing of the organizations. And that's also through partnering with our partner organizations. It's a collaborative effort, but C4SM, I think, now is leading the way in terms of making sound or bringing sound money back to the people in the United States. And we've made such huge progress in New Hampshire, in Missouri, in Florida. We're going to do it in Texas. And you know, the experience that you had, along with the vision that Marion and Reno and Jim had, along with now, let's talk about some of the expansion. I jump on board as a board, first as a supporter, social media, then as a board member. We're now talking with social media people all over the gold and silver space. We just talked with Kurt earlier today, was a big gold guy, is now big into crypto and the digital realm. I mean, the partners that we're making are huge influencers that are also very politically connected and connected to some high net worth individuals. And we can see this message expanding so fast that we were having this conversation this morning that we think it's going to outrun us. Our concern not is whether or not this is going to gain momentum. We're seeing the momentum so fast. Our concern is how do we grow with that momentum and not get outrun by it.
That is our concern. I mean, literally this
Yeah.
morning we're talking like it is so ripe right now for sound money globally and not just the United States, that we are seriously concerned about our organization expanding faster than we can keep up with it.
Yes.
Because of just the connections that we're making, the activism that we're doing, and the activism in the sense of actually lobbying with boots on the ground, and the coalitions that we built. Let's not forget that Jim Forsyth was able to do something that pretty much nobody else in the gold and silver industry has been able to do. He's been able to bring together a cutthroat, like very competitive gold and silver industry and bring a bunch of companies and organizations together working with Citizens for Sound Money for a common cause. And that common cause was spreading the sound money movement, spreading the sound money gospel, and spreading freedom and liberty, because we understand that the sound money movement is a foundation of freedom. Sound money is a foundation of freedom, and one of our models for our organization is sound markets require sound money.
Yes.
So Jim Forsyth was the catalyst that began this movement. We are memorializing him as the founding father of the sound money movement because of the sacrifices that he did to make this entire movement start and begin. And tragically, for those of you that are new to our channel, Jim passed away on March 15th of this year through a tragic accident. And we are remembering his legacy by continuing to push forward with the sound money movement here at Citizens for Sound Money, and building bridges and continuing to grow and be inclusive with the sound money movement.
Yeah, I often say Jim got us through the creation, the ideation stage, the initial forming stage. And all of the contacts that he made and the work that he did have led to now, after Jim, this just absolute explosion of support and collaboration that has been nothing short of just beautiful and fantastic. And we really owe it to Jim to kind of carry his message forward, all the sacrifices he made financially with his time, because he just loved America so much and he loved people. And we just all were touched by him and have our own stories about how we came into it. You told yours, I'll tell mine later, that we all realize we're all in this together. And it was true, Jim, really, that is helping us carry forward in our mission. But it's through love, it's through collaboration, it's through helping out, it's through honesty, communication. All those things are foundational to a community, to families and to communities and friends and things like that. And I think that's why we have attracted so many great people to us, because the way that we went about it, but originally because of that vision of our founders, Jim, Marion, and Reno, and the wonderful advisory board that we put together. We want to take a moment and thank them. We have conversations every day with almost 30 people across the United States, and even a couple, across the pond, that are just so supportive and so brilliant, that we're not in this alone. So it's not just us here up on the screen. We have this core foundational organization of people that many of them well-to-do, a lot of them extremely intelligent, all of them motivated. That's really the base behind this movement. It's not just the people you see in front of the camera. There's a ton of people behind the camera that helped us out. So don't just look at me and Daniel and a few people here. There's so many people now involved that they're not going to come on screen, but they're foundational to what's going on.
Yeah, Daniel Tinkham earlier,
Yes.
Aaron Day is on our advisory
Aaron Day,
board.
yes.
We have some amazing people that
just wonderful people from all walks of life, all genders, all ages, all races. This is something that has united all of us behind this, because we realize it's so important for us and our kids, and not only our individual legacies, but the legacy of our great country, which, like you said, gave us our freedom.
Absolutely. And I just want to take a moment and say hello to Voodoo Queen. Good morning, Voodoo Queen from Missouri Freedom Initiative.
Hey, Voodoo Queen.
Good morning, Gold Miner James and Mining Stocks. Good morning. He calls us out, Rob and Daniel. He says, good morning, Mining
Good morning,
Stocks.
good morning.
Thank you for your donation yesterday, Mining Stocks. That was very generous of you. If you want to call in, we have about 10 minutes left before we're going to take an intermission in our broadcast. If you want to call in and ask Robert and I any questions, you can call us at 877-749-1776. Again, that's 877 749-1776. We have 10 minutes. Please feel free to give us a call if you have any questions, comments, metaphysical revelations.
Wait, 1776. What significance does that have? To the Sound Money Movement and Freedom? I have no idea what that date is for. You know, the first time that date cemented in my mind because I was in kindergarten, and in kindergarten we went to this assembly and a guy was playing music and he was asking us questions trying to help educate us, and he was singing, you know, these patriotic songs, and he's like, "What year was the Declaration of Independence?" And I raised my hand very sheepishly as like a, I don't know, 6 or 7-year-old, whatever it was, and I said 1776. And he stood up and he said, "You're the first kid ever to answer that on the first try." I was so proud. I was, yes.
Awesome. And 749, 7's a lucky number, but
Yeah.
49, 1849 gold rush.
There
so
you
that's
go.
how I
Okay.
remember our phone number.
The 49ers.
The 49ers,
Yes.
749-1776. So please give us a call if you want to be a part of the show, the broadcast, ask us any questions you'd like. But yeah, man, I love, I'm not going to lie, this is probably my favorite job of all time. Now, I've only had 2 jobs in the last 15 years. I was executive director of Young Americans of Freedom. After that, I was an entrepreneur for the last, you know, whatever, 9, 10 years, whatever. I think 2011. So 13 years.
13 years.
Entrepreneur for the last 13 years as independent insurance agent, and then stockbroker, and then running my own businesses. And then my second job in the last 15 years or 13 years is executive director of Citizen Sound Money. So it's funny, my last 2 jobs was executive director.
I see a trend there.
There is a trend, isn't there? So no, it's been great. It's been great. And hello to the 353 viewers. We just got Patrick Holland back in. Patrick has been missing in action here for the last hour. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
He's been running the behind the scenes.
Yes.
I've been behind the scenes, so thank you very much for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, we just said hi to Voodoo Queen and Gold Miner James. I know Voodoo Queen is
Hey,
part
Voodoo
of
Queen, thank you very much for coming back and watching the broadcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah, so anything you want to share, Patrick, before we log off for about an hour? We got 7 minutes left.
Well, I'll tell you what, going out amongst the crowd and everything, the Goldbacks, of course, are very popular. They're right here in this tent. So, this is the tent to be in, the Sound Money tent. But also, what's really, really, really cool is tonight we have an auction right here in the Sound Money tent. And that is right after Rob Kientz does his speech at the big auditorium right over there we call the Pavilion. So there's a lot of activity just for this tent alone. I know there's a lot of other things going on at PorcFest, but I think this is the main attraction for Friday, really, for the entire event of PorcFest. So at any rate, if you're watching us, go ahead.
Speak it.
Yeah.
You're on it.
Yeah. So if you're here at PorcFest, obviously this is the area you want to be in for tonight. So hang on, I'll put my headset on. There we go. So we don't get any more feedback. This is the event. This is it on Friday night, right here. And gosh darn it, I'll tell you what we should do is take some pictures of these things and actually throw them online.
Yeah.
We'll get that done in the break so people can see the incredible silver products that we have here. So
And jewelry.
Because silver is freedom, and so we
Yes.
brought some freedom enhancing items for you guys to take a look at. And yeah, we'll have a little bit of alcohol here as well, and some snacks and things like that. So it's going to be a fun party of like-minded people, and definitely be just a great time.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm looking forward to your talk tonight. And my understanding is we're actually going to get some time for questions and answers too. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to try to, I'm not exactly sure how long I have, but I'll do the presentation. And what I really want to do is leave about 20, 25 minutes for Q&A at the end.
Okay, gotcha. I think you're slated for an hour in the pavilion.
But that's perfect. We may have 30 minutes of Q&A then.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
I really want to interact with the people. And I think that's the value of doing conferences. You do your presentation, but it's that interaction of people, that exchange of ideas. I think that's the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. So come one, come all. If you're watching us from PorcFest, and a lot of people are watching our broadcast from PorcFest, you're at PorcFest right here by the pavilion, the Sound Money tent. This is the area of activity tonight, starting at about 5 p.m. So be there or be rectangular or square.
Square.
Oh, yeah. So,
Or triangle, or rectangle, or
choose
an
your shape.
octagon.
Yeah, let's identify with whatever shape you like.
That's right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, we've got some people bidding on items already, so I'm gonna head over there
Okay.
real quick if you guys want to take it over from
You
here.
bet. Here we go. I'll take Rob's spot here. And let's see. Turn this down just a little bit. No. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yep. Sorry about that, gang. But you know what? We've got a lot of activity going on, basically all the time here. It's never ending. Sometimes we show the camera over here on the gold side of the tent. And so, yep. Do you know how to you know how to do that? Gotcha.
We got live mic.
There we go.
All right,
All right.
I'm here with a special guest who is a coin collector, and the most exciting part about this is just the age of this young gentleman. It's not just old people that collect coins. People love the history of coins. But I'll let you tell it. What's your name?
My name's Sophie.
Well, thank you for stopping by, Storm. Tell us a little bit about why you're into collectible coins.
And then I just sort of took an interest in it, finding that I just thought it was cool.
Anything in particular that you like to invest in? Everybody has their favorites. Do you like a certain type of coin or metal content or?
I usually like silver and gold and trying to find that sort of stuff.
Very good. Smart guy. So, what from the table interests you? What do you see here? Maybe the camera turn around. We could take a look at some of the items we have. What are you interested in here that we have for out on display? Are you just like the straight silver coins? You like the old stuff, like the old, U.S. coins? You're looking more modern, like American Silver Eagles?
Yeah, I'm sort of looking like older and stuff like that.
Okay, we do have a few items here. We do have an old 1797 dollar back there, as well as a trade dollar. We have an old 5-cent piece from 1832. Actually, we'll show this on the camera. 1832 5-cent piece. We have a trade dollar from what year is that?
1877.
1877. You want to grab that one on the end and hold it up to this camera right here? Just let us.
This is a 1798 large eagle.
1798 large eagle dollar.
Come closer to the
Not
camera.
not a
Let's
whole
let
lot
that
of
camera
these in it.
actually get a really good glimpse of that.
Not a whole lot of these in existence.
That's
Really
wonderful.
nice coin. Yeah. There you go. Put that one over there for us. We also, like I said, have a little 5-cent piece from 1832. So we've got a lot of these old collector coin. All of them are graded so that we can certify the value off of a gray sheet. That's really important. I didn't bring my raw ones because I wanted people to be able to look them up and understand their value. We have a nice little piece here. Can you tell us what that one is?
This is a 1940s 50-cent coin.
Okay, 1940s. So it was made at the San Francisco Mint. 1940 MS66. Which is near perfect quality, and the value of that's about $1,000. We've got that on auction. You can do a buy it now for less than that. Substantially less than that, by the way. Have a lot of equity in your coin, much like you get equity in your house. You get equity in collectible coins. The buy it now price on that's only $800. So you would start off with 20% equity in that. We think that's a pretty good deal. Anything else that you may be interested on the table?
This
Okay.
1909.
B, which is a special type of thing. And it's what's the grade on that? It's an MS.
MS 65.
And red, and red were the most rare. That's really what the collectors want nowadays, are the red ones versus the red browns or the browns. It's got a little bit nice little luster to it. That one retails for about $215, $216, a 1909 VDB if you're interested. So you collectors, come on down. For those of you that may be interested in something a little bit more modern, we have some cool collectible items. We have a little horseshoe that's silver, that's finished in rose gold. We have, this is my favorite one. One of my friends is a master silversmith and makes these little gun cylinders with removable bullets, which is 6 ounces of silver. We have some really nice jewelry if you're shopping for your significant other. Little emerald diamond piece here, with just tons of stuff out on the table. If you had your pick of anything, price wasn't an object, what would you take? The $1798. Yeah, I think that's a really good choice. So what are you going to do from here on out? Are you still going to collect coins? Is that your major hobby, or are you going to keep doing this as you get old?
try and keep doing this and try and get some like bigger finds. And so far, I don't really have anything too much.
You got plenty of time, my friend. Trust me. You got plenty of years left to do this. So, do you go shopping with your mom and dad? Like, do you go to local coin stores? Do you shop online, or how do you get involved?
I usually go to coin stores and just look through my changes. That's where I found some of those things.
Gold, silver, pre 1964 stuff. Yeah. Would you ever invest in gold? Like, would you buy a 1 ounce like gold American Eagle?
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely.
Saving up for that one, right? Oh, looky here. Smart guy. He got rid of fiat and got a gold infused gold back. The money of the conference. Good job, my friend. Well, I think we may have something a little special for you. We'll give you something. Thanks for being on the program. Stand by for just a second, and that's going to do it for this. I'll let you guys take it over.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, gosh, that's pretty cool. We actually got to see some of the stuff now that's up for auction. So thank you very much for that, Rob. And I'll tell you what, we're going to close out the broadcast for right now, but we'll be coming back at you just a little bit later. We don't know the exact time yet, but it will be today. So stay tuned to the socials here. And let's see. Let's go ahead and get the outro music going. And I think we're going to have one heck of a great auction here tonight, gang. If you're here at PorcFest, go ahead and join us tonight. Some cheese and wine, maybe some beer, but also an auction. And Rob Kientz is speaking.